Part 32. Lord Survival, My Shelter in Crocodile Territory. Author, Chi Wen. Chapter 315. Zhang Yang, what are you talking about? How is the development of your territory? Wang Shuo didn't mind. He walked over and gave him a big bear hug. Wang Shuo will not forget that Zhang Yang led his cavalry on a long-distance attack and came to support him when he attacked Nanshanji. Because of this incident, Wang Shuo regarded Zhang Yang as a friend. Zhang Yang felt that Wang Shuo was still the same Wang Shuo, and then he smiled broadly. Hey, there's no problem with my territory. Wang Shuo, you don't know, I finally led the troops out this time. It's really hard to explain, Zhang Yang vomited bitterly. Wang Shuo raised his brows and said in surprise, Oh? What difficulties did you encounter? Don't worry, I will definitely help if I can. After the two sat down, Zhang Yang ate a grape and continued, You know, I said to Wang Yuyao, the person who gave me the hot water, that I would protect him for the rest of his life, so I found her later. Take her to Zhuyang village, and then, you know. But now, brother, I am suffering. Wang Shuo rolled his eyes at him, You already have a wife, why are you suffering? Ever since we established a relationship with her, she has been worried about this and that all day long, to the point where I don't allow any woman within 10 steps of me. Wang Shuo gave him a sympathetic look. This time I had to talk hard before I agreed to let me come out. Before I left, I gave you all kinds of warnings. Hey! I'm so annoyed. As he spoke, he showed an expression that was uglier than crying. Wang Shuo suddenly understood that this guy was pretending to be Versailles. At this time, the figure of Yeshua appeared in Wang Shuo's mind. That kiss still reminded him of it. Seeing Wang Shuo's expression, Zhang Yang understood it instantly as a person who had experienced it. Wang Shuo, do you have someone you like? Wang Shuo's face turned red and he quickly denied it. What's the matter? By the way, how many people did you bring here this time and how is the equipment? Wang Shuo quickly changed the subject. Speaking of this, Zhang Yang looked sad again. Wang Shuo, I took a look at the equipment of those guys. Compared with them, my soldiers are not at the same level at all. How many people did you bring? 1,000 people. Wang Shuo was also very generous and directly gave him gold equipment for 1,000 people, and also equipped each of his soldiers with a necromantic bead. The gold equipment produced in Wang Shuo's territory can not only satisfy his own army, but there is also excess that can be traded with other lords. After Wang Shuo received the inheritance from Changping County, it could be said that he was wealthy. 1,000 sets of gold equipment was nothing. He even picked up 500 sets of rare equipment from the battlefield, but most of them were somewhat damaged. He is currently researching and repairing them in the blacksmith shop. He believes that it won't be long before this kind of mithril black gold armor can be mass-produced. After the two talked about old times and complained for a while, Zhang Yang left. Wang Shuo gathered the 60,000 troops and prepared to teleport to Shanghai City through the teleportation array. Teleporting an army requires a lot of time and must be arranged in advance. After the arrangements were made, Wang Shuo took Gongzheng and Yetianba and teleported there first. At this time, the teleportation array in Haihe City has been put under military control. As soon as Wang Shuo came out, an officer was in charge of receiving him. Your Excellency is Changping County Magistrate Wang Shuo, County Magistrate Wang. A senior officer came over and asked in a very friendly manner. Yes, that's right. The county governor has an order. After the county magistrate Wang arrives, please go to the county governor's mansion immediately to discuss matters. Wang Shuo was shocked before he could speak. There were lords shouting around. Hey, I've been here for so long, but I'm not qualified to enter the county governor's house. He's not a big deal. He was summoned by the county governor as soon as he came. Yes, look at my eldest brother. He has a majestic appearance, a majestic weapon, and the appearance of a great emperor. County Sheriff Zhao should summon him immediately. Lord Survival, my shelter in Crocodile Territory. Author, Qi Wen. Chapter 316. Wang Shuo sneered and ignored these people. He was also a little curious at this moment, why was this Zhao Junshao so polite to him? Under the leadership of this commander, Wang Shuo walked towards the Junshao mansion. The sky above Shanghai city was covered with dark clouds, and the entire city was shrouded in a transparent light curtain. Wang Shuo had seen this kind of light curtain above Black Dragon City. It looked similar to the waterproof sky curtain, but the waterproof sky curtain could only prevent water, not attack. Shanghai city was bustling with people, the wide main street was paved with bluestone, and the buildings on both sides were mainly three-story buildings, with red lacquer columns and flying eaves. Any building was more magnificent than the Lord's mansion in Wanatown. Wang Shuo walked and looked along the way, and was amazed. After walking for a while, Wang Shuo was taken to a pavilion in the back garden of the Junshao mansion. The scenery was pleasant with birds singing and flowers blooming here. Wang Shuo couldn't help but worry, could this Zhao Junshao be a woman? Not long after, a man came over from a distance. Wang Shuo looked closely and found that the man seemed familiar. He had a bun on his head and wore court clothes. He was elegant and majestic. Wang Shuo widened his eyes in disbelief. Old Zhao! How dare you! You must not be rude to the governor. A guard behind Zhao Junshao immediately scolded. Back off! Zhao Banged immediately sent the guard away. Zhao Junshao was Zhao Banged, the quartermaster in the ancient battlefield. Wang Shuo even gave him a 5-star praise. Didn't expect it? Ah, ha ha ha. Zhao Banged laughed heartily. Wang Shuo's face was also happy, no wonder. In this way, everything that happened recently made sense. I didn't expect that the little lord who was chased by the ghost at the beginning is now a hegemon. I didn't expect that a small quartermaster, who was still a system tool man, is now a giant. Ha 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 ha. The two smiled at each other. Recalling the bits and pieces of the past, the two of them were full of emotion. By the way, how did you become the governor of Hedong County? When I was released from prison, Lord Zak gave me two choices, one was to be the leader of a sect in the outer domain, and the other choice was to be the governor of Hedong County in the Wei domain. I thought about it, the territory outside the domain has basically been divided up, and there is still a lot of room for development in the Wei domain, and there is an acquaintance like you here, so I chose this place. Then Nanshanji is isolated and helpless, is it also your fault? You have the strength to challenge a small town, of course I have to give you a fair chance. Zhao Bang nodded, and then slowly said, if you can't beat it yourself, I won't help you. You know, people of my generation have been overcoming difficulties along the way, and will encounter countless dangers. Not every time there will be someone to help. Everything depends on yourself. Wang Shuo nodded in agreement. At present, do you need any help? Wang Shuo thought about it and shook his head. Well, I will treat everyone equally in the next battle. You must prepare for the worst. This battle will be very tragic. Wang Shuo said solemnly, can you tell me how powerful the enemy is? Zhao Banged said seriously, there are 1.5 million ordinary undead, 600,000 elite undead, 10 junior generals, and 1 intermediate general, that is, the supreme commander of the Burning Legion, Arifubal. This is the most conservative estimate. In addition, there are countless undead beasts. Even though Wang Shuo had expected it, his heart was still like a turmoil. After a while, he asked again, then, what about us? Wang Shuo looked at Zhao Banged and wanted to know how strong he was now. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Lord Survival, My Shelter in Crocodile Territory. Author, Qi Wen. Chapter 317. Zhao Bangde understood Wang Shuo's thoughts and generously showed his attributes to Wang Shuo. ID, SAC 10010 Zhao Bangde. Level 60, Intermediate General. Identity, Hedong County Governor. Combat Occupation, Boxer, Grandmaster. Attack Power, 3200. Defense Power, 1400. Command Value, 500 add 20,000. Health Value, 20,000. Skills. Wang Shuo breathed a sigh of relief after seeing this. At least in the top combat power, there are still people who can deal with the enemy's boss. What about our current military strength? Zhao Bangde smiled bitterly and sighed. Shanghai City has only 100,000 troops, and there are only 4 junior generals at present. Counting the number of people who may come to support, I am afraid it will be less than 1 million people. This is really a hell-level difficulty. Wang Shuo was also deeply desperate. At the beginning, the county governor, county magistrate, and mayor of each system town were only nominal superiors and subordinates. And when they entered the game, the revival of the undead had already entered the countdown. It can be said that there are internal and external troubles. On the one hand, they must guard against the attack of the undead, and on the other hand, they must subdue their own subordinates. And they must also be wary of these lords, who are both partners and potential enemies who can overthrow their rule. The rulers of these system towns are even more difficult than the situation faced by the players. This undead revival can be said to be a monster siege against them. After leaving the county governor's mansion, Wang Shuo returned to the vicinity of the teleportation array. At this time, more than half of the coalition forces in Changping County had been teleported over. Wang Shuo immediately stationed the troops he brought with him in an open space near the East City Gate in accordance with the unified arrangement of Shanghai City. In the evening, all the troops have been teleported over. Everyone saw that there were troops everywhere, and the whole Shanghai City was filled with a murderous atmosphere. There were temporary military camps everywhere, and some lords who were originally arrogant were now much more respectful. Wang Shuo led a group of generals to inspect the camp. At this moment, Wang Shuo found Dongfang Ling. She was dressed in military uniform, and her silver-white armor was shining. Dongfang Ling also found Wang Shuo with a casual glance. She was slightly startled, and immediately turned her head, and the two looked at each other. It had been almost 2 months since the last meeting. Dongfang Ling had also experienced many things during this period, and her personality had undergone a huge change. She was no longer a willful and capricious lady, but had grown into a lord who cared about the life and death of his subordinates. However, when she saw Wang Shuo, she still felt a little ripple in her heart. Wang Shuo nodded to her, and then turned around to continue inspecting his camp. Dongfang Ling wanted to speak, but when she saw Wang Shuo turn around, her steps that were about to move forward suddenly stopped. She stood there. Her body stiffened. The light in her eyes slowly disappeared. Wang Shuo turned around casually. It seemed to close a door deep in Dongfang Ling's heart. This turn, it seemed to be forever. Dongfang Ling closed her eyes, took a deep breath, and then suddenly opened them. The innocence of the girl had disappeared without a trace, and her face showed the face of a cold female general. In the following days, lords led troops to teleport over one after another. Wang Shuo stayed in the barracks and practiced for 2 days. Report, Commander Saran of Shanghai City, please ask the county magistrate to go to discuss matters. Wang Shuo has learned in the past few days that there are 4 major commanders in Shanghai City, namely Xie Xiaofeng, Saran, Ba Huayao, and Su Kekai. All 4 of them are junior warriors, responsible for defending 4 city gates respectively. Wang Shuo was assigned to the command of Commander Saran to defend the East Gate. When Wang Shuo came to Commander Saran's tent, there were already many people standing inside. Roughly estimated, there should be no less than 50 people. There are many lords who came alone with their troops, with less than 10,000 people. There are also people like Wangshuo who came as a coalition army, with tens of thousands of people under their command. When almost everyone arrived, outside the big tent, a scarred man with 3 long swords on his back walked in. Lord Survival, my shelter in Crocodile territory. Author, Chi Wen. Chapter 318. This man was not wearing armor, but a brocade dress. He walked to the desk at the main seat and looked around at everyone. Wangshuo felt like he was being stared at by a wild beast. His eyes were very sharp, which made people feel scared. Lords, mayors, since you are here, you only need to do one thing, that is, obey orders. In the next action, I hope you can strictly obey the combat orders. After saying that, he glanced at everyone again, his eyes full of coldness that could not be questioned. Everyone present did not disobey his orders. After waiting for a long time, he continued, this time you can support Shanghai City. On behalf of the Lord of Shanghai City, I thank you all. When the war starts, the system will open a military merit point system. This time, in addition to the system rewards, Zhao Junqiao also prepared generous rewards for the mayors and lords on the list. We are responsible for defending the East Gate. Sauron gave a brief introduction to the specific combat situation. When fighting in Shanghai City, there is no need to worry about being attacked by the dead air, because there is a formation to protect it. Moreover, Shanghai City will provide a large amount of defensive supplies, and everyone can go to the quartermaster at the East Gate to collect them. At the same time, you can also exchange some equipment and skills with military merits. Wangshuo thought to himself, this really moved the set of the ancient battlefield here. After the combat meeting, Wangshuo went to the quartermaster to check it out. Gold-level weapons and armors are available on it. These things are still very helpful for some generals, especially those lords who have many generals but insufficient equipment. Among them, there are some rare weapons that make Wangshuo very excited, but the military merit points exchanged are also astonishing. At the same time, each lord has some free city defense supplies, such as kerosene, arrows, etc. The part exceeding the quota needs to be exchanged by the lords with military merit points. After all, more supplies mean more military merit points. After arranging the combat area, Wangshuo was able to successfully climb the city wall. Walk up the 30-meter high city wall from the horse path. Overlooking Shanghai City. Countless houses are crisscrossed, like small grids. Standing on the city wall, looking into the distance, it can be vaguely seen that a layer of transparent light curtain wraps up the entire Shanghai City along the city wall, like an upside-down pot lid. 3 kilometers away, countless skeleton troops are stationed. One of the altars is huge, and it is filled with extremely strong death energy, as if summoning some terrible monster. In other places, there are a large number of altars, with black smoke rising up. But, if you look closely, it is not black smoke, but the thick black death energy flowing from top to bottom. The death energy gathers into a tornado-like smoke column, standing on the altar, like a pillar supporting the sky. The dark clouds and death in the sky were indistinguishable. Under the vast sky, countless columns of death smoke connected the sky and the earth. Countless skeletons on the ground, with hollow chests, emitted fiery red light. A scene of hell. If it weren't for this gloomy tone, it would really feel like a lonely smoke in the desert. Wangshuo looked at the battlements and found that this kind of wall bricks was more solid than the bronze bricks in Wanatown. Silver-level wall bricks. Wangshuo couldn't help but guess that the bricks were silver white, and each piece was about the same size as a bronze brick. The width of the wall was also more than 10 meters wide, and it was even wider at the raised horse face of the wall, with many arrow towers standing on it. And the city wall at the gate was also huge. What Wang Shuo needed to defend was the wall between the four horse faces, a total of 4 kilometers, close to the city wall. As for the most important city wall, of course, it was defended by the main force of the Suanjia army of Shanghai City. Wang Shuo finally saw the Suanjia army led by Saran. Each of them is level 60, tall, wearing black armor, and looks majestic. Wang Shuo led his soldiers to the designated defense area, and the black armor army began to gather towards the city wall. Wang Shuo only needs 10,000 people to defend this section of the city wall, and the extra people can be rotated and replaced. When the real siege begins, the casualties will inevitably be very serious, so the reserve soldiers must be prepared in sufficient quantities. Lord Survival, My Shelter in Crocodile Territory. Author, Qi Wen. Chapter 319. Coincidentally, next to Wang Shuo's defense zone is the area defended by Wuhan Town. This Wuhan Town is the town built by Dongfang Ling and Fang Kai. At this time, Dongfang Ling did not go up to the city wall. Fang Kai walked over with a proud look on his face. You are Wang Shuo, right? I warn you, it's best to stay away from Dongfang Ling. He is not someone you can approach. Wang Shuo felt a little puzzled. Who are you? Wang Shuo thought that this was just a follower of Dongfang Ling. What qualifications did he have to yell in front of him? Wang Shuo retorted without any hesitation. Who I am, you don't need to care, you just need to remember my words, that's all. After that, he turned and left. The main reason is that he is only a senior general now. Seeing Ye Tianba and others behind Wang Shuo, he left with a harsh word and walked away tactfully. Wang Shuo did not take him seriously. Even Niwu was dealt with by him. This so-called elite from outside the domain is nothing more than that. Death is not scary, what is scary is the despair of waiting to die. A few days passed, and the undead still showed no signs of attacking the city. Wang Shuo took the time to go to the county governor's mansion again and had a good chat with Zhao Bangde. The undead are waiting to summon their king. Seeing Wang Shuo's puzzled face, Zhao Bangde explained. Black Dragon King. Zhao Bangde nodded. Then why don't we take the initiative and fight out? Do you think I don't want to? However, the strength of our two sides is very different. If we fight head-on, we have almost no chance of winning. But if it drags on like this, won't we have no chance of winning? At least we still have the city wall to defend, the undead are just plotting Zhao Bangde's side. Wang Shuo also felt a sense of powerlessness. Fortunately, there is no shortage of water and food here, so it doesn't matter how long the siege lasts. However, being worried and tense every day is a bit unbearable. Next to the altar of the undead. Report to the general, we don't have enough sacrifices. The skeleton general sitting on the throne had a golden mask on his face. After hearing the report from his men, he stood up and looked at Shanghai City from afar. Let's take the city first and then offer it to the king, Arifubal said casually. Send the order, attack at this time, a skeleton soldier shouted with a hoarse voice. 10 huge human skin war drums were brought up. 10 skeleton soldiers, 3 meters tall, swung huge animal bones in their hands and hit the drums violently. Bang, bang. The huge drum sound resounded throughout the land. When the human defenders on the city wall heard the drum sound, their hearts seemed to beat along with it. Then, the bells in the city also rang, and everyone entered a state of preparation for war. At the same time, the war in the other two county cities was about to break out. There are a total of 3 counties in the Dawei area, namely Hedong County, Nangsuanfu, and Fenglin County. They were surrounded by the 3 undead legions, namely the Burning Legion, the Blood Legion, and the Purple Flame Legion. At this moment, they launched an attack at the same time. This siege was different from the small fights Wang Shuo had seen before. The entire attack was orderly. The first to attack were still cannon fodder skeletons, mainly various large undead beasts. The 3-meter-tall undead tigers were covered with a layer of snake skin, the giant pythons over 30 meters long, the huge porcupines 5 meters long, and various tall undead beasts, taking heavy steps, approaching the walls of Shanghai City. Every step was earth-shaking, and even trampled on some weak skeletons around them. In the distance, the main force of the Burning Legion still stood in place, silently waiting for the order to attack. Standing on the wall, Wang Shuo witnessed all this, and felt his heart surge and his blood boiling. This grand battlefield scene, for the timid, is probably terrifying. But for Wang Shuo, it just ignited his passion, and he became excited. He wanted to shout, "For glory!" You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Lord Survival, My Shelter in Crocodile Territory. Author, Qi Wen. Chapter 320. The Shanghai City Defense War officially begins. Killing the undead will earn you military merit points. Please explore the specific rules yourself. The system prompt sounded, and Wang Shuo had received the news in advance. It was almost the same as Sauron said. In the sound of war drums. The first wave of undead beasts had already arrived at the city, but they had no way to climb up the 30-meter-high wall. They could only use their huge bodies and sharp fangs to destroy the durability of the wall. In the air, there were also various undead birds attacking the light curtain. One of the undead bone dragons had a wingspan of 15 meters and was made of skeletons, but it could still fly in the air. It opened its mouth and sprayed a blazing flame, burning the white light curtain. Before it could spray the second mouthful, a huge spear flew out and knocked it down into the air. The soldiers on the wall also began to fight back. The archers shot countless arrows from a high position, and the dense rain of arrows caused a large number of casualties to the undead beasts. Arrow towers are more efficient than archers, just like pear blossoms in the rain. Wang Shuo placed 40 catapults on the horse face. The attack power of catapults is much higher than that of bronze crossbow carts. Facing dense undead beasts, the lethality is naturally greater. Bang! The projectiles exploded among the undead beasts, and some fragile undead beasts, such as undead hounds and undead antelopes, were directly killed. Wang Shuo noticed at this time that in addition to his own catapults, only Shanghai City had one. Shanghai City's catapults were more powerful than his own catapults. Wang Shuo checked a catapult near the city wall and found that it was a heavy catapult. This type of catapult is immovable, and the projectiles it fired are 5 times larger than those fired by light catapults. Wang Shuo swallowed his saliva. If he was hit by such a projectile, he would probably die. Life is so fragile. It is estimated that only those generals with a health value of over 10,000 can resist it. Wang Shuo's heart was more eager to become a general. At the East Gate, many lords were envious of Wang Shuo for having so many catapults. You know, in this defensive battle, every time you kill an undead, you will get different military merit points according to the level of the general. These are all real benefits. Wang Shuo's catapult can be said to be a killer weapon for brushing military merit points. Other lords can only stare blankly. In addition to the catapult, Wang Shuo also brought a large number of bows and arrows. Although other professions do not have any skills and attack bonuses when using bows and arrows, they can still exert their own attack power. As a result, Wana Town's military merit points immediately occupied the second place. Just 10 minutes after the start of the war, it already had 30,000 military merit points. As for the first place, forget it, Shanghai City itself is also on the list. For the sake of fairness, Wang Shuo evenly distributed the section of the wall he defended to the various mayors and lords of the Changping County Coalition Army, so that everyone would have a share, so as not to cause dissatisfaction among the people. If there are military merit points, everyone will brush them together, and if there are dangers, they will naturally shoulder them together. For those lords who did not carry enough bows and arrows, Wang Shuo generously provided them with bows and arrows. This move won the favor of everyone. The first wave of the attack of the undead beasts lasted about 4 hours. Their main purpose was to consume the long-range weapons of Shanghai City and at the same time wear down the durability of the city wall. General Arifapol, standing on the high platform, watched the undead beasts being almost consumed. Then a new combat order was issued. Lord Survival, My Shelter in Crocodile Territory. Author, Qi Wen. Chapter 321. At this time, hundreds of monsters about 8 meters tall and carrying a basket on their heads walked out from the camp of the undead army. This kind of monster is called a stone-throwing monster. Wang Shuo has seen it before, but it is not so big. Their attack range is far less than that of the catapult, only 600 or 700 meters away. But their power is very huge. The huge stones directly hit the light curtain, causing ripples. Wang Shuo roughly estimated that the total durability of the light curtain of the entire Shanghai city plus the city wall should be several billion. Only after these durability are consumed can the city wall be truly attacked. By then, the air defense shield of Shanghai city will also lose its effect, and some flying beasts can attack the soldiers on the city wall. In the Grand War, the power of an individual is small, but countless individuals will eventually form a great force. Wang Shuo can only let Li Jiangguo use the catapult to shoot at those undead monsters. At this time, some giant beasts made of bones picked up some undead skeletons around them and threw them onto the city wall. What surprised Wang Shuo was that these skeletons could actually pass through the light curtain. An undead skeleton was thrown onto the section of the city wall defended by Wang Shuo. Several generals immediately surrounded it, and Wang Shuo did not hesitate and rushed over. A closer look revealed that there was something like a drill on the head of the skeleton. The shape was very strange. It seemed that he should have used this drill to destroy the light curtain and drill in. Diamond drill skeleton, can destroy the barrier. After checking it, Wang Shuo got the most critical information about it. The crowd didn't waste any words. In one round of attack, the undead skeleton was killed on the spot. Wang Shuo looked up and saw that there were several such skeletons in some places on other sections of the city wall, which made the lords in a hurry, and even killed several archers. But the attack and defense power of this diamond skeleton are not very high, and it is only for experience. Just when Wang Shuo didn't take it seriously, something strange happened. In other places on the city wall, although the diamond skeleton was killed, the death aura he carried infected the surrounding soldiers. This kind of death aura, unlike ordinary death aura, explodes very quickly, just like poisoning, and it is also contagious. It seems that this is the real purpose of the undead to throw this kind of skeleton into the light curtain. Wang Shuo turned around and saw that his red flame army was not affected. But his allies were not so lucky, and some were infected. These soldiers affected by the death aura were all soldiers who did not carry the dead soul beads. I saw that their flesh and blood corroded rapidly at a speed visible to the naked eye. After more than 10 breaths, they turned into a new undead skeleton. Wang Shuo had never seen such a situation before. As far as he knew, the undead were produced by transforming corpses through the altar. It seems that this method of directly infecting living people must also cost the undead. Otherwise, it would be impossible for humans to defeat the undead. Just when there was chaos on the city wall, a team of priests in long robes quickly rushed up the city wall and ran towards the areas where the undead were infected. They silently chanted spells, and white light shot out from them, entangled with the black death energy, and finally died together. Purification. Someone heard the last 2 words in their spell clearly. Some infected people, as long as their bodies were not corroded too seriously, could be rescued. In this way, the situation on the city wall was temporarily under control. Lord Survival, My Shelter in Crocodile Territory. Author, Qi Wen. Chapter 322. Wang Shuo came to the battlements, and the undead army was still attacking continuously. In the distance, an undead beast with a huge horn on its head and white bone pieces on its body walked out of the undead camp. Undead Giant Rhino. Level 55. Attack power, 1000. Defense power, 2000. HP, 30,000. Skill, Savage Charge. Villain Charge. This undead giant rhino is 7 or 8 meters long, and the giant horn on its head alone is 2 meters long and 1 meter in diameter. The white giant horn reflects light and looks harder than metal. Wang Shuo panicked inexplicably. The giant rhino ran fast, knocking away countless undead warriors along the way. Wang Shuo looked in the direction of their collision and found that it was the gate of the city. Wang Shuo's pupils shrank suddenly. Jiangguo, hurry! Blast the giant rhino! Wang Shuo could only stop the giant rhino in his own way. Lord, they are too fast. Dense beads of sweat appeared on Li Jiangguo's forehead. He was operating a catapult himself, but he still couldn't aim. On the city wall, Sauron also stared at the giant rhino, and kept urging all long-range firepower to fire at the giant rhino. But the giant rhino's defense was amazing, and the projectiles fell nearby and could not cause any damage at all. No surprises. The giant rhino's huge sharp horns hit the city gate, directly knocking a hole in the city gate made of steel plates. Wang Shuo hurried to the edge of the raised horseface and just saw the city gate was broken. Not good. After the giant rhino hit the city gate, it seemed to have exhausted all its strength and energy, and the bones on its body shattered. It successfully completed its mission. Without any command, countless ordinary skeleton warriors rushed to the city gate and rushed into the city wall. The Burning Legion broke through a city gate before sending out its elite. Although the city wall was like a trap, at least the first line of defense was broken. The light curtain in the sky was also shaky, as if it would break at any time. Although the fire had limited lethality to the undead, Sauron still ordered to pour kerosene down the city wall. Wang Shuo had also received kerosene at the military supply department before, and according to Sauron's order, he poured a large amount of kerosene down the city wall. Ignite! In an instant, the flames shot up into the sky. For low-level undead, kerosene is still effective, but for high-level undead, they have already cultivated flames in their bodies, and the level of flames is higher than this ordinary flame, and there is no effect at all. The whole Shanghai city was surrounded by a circle of fire. But the undead were still fearless and continued to fight. Wang Shuo was once again impressed by this spirit. The undead army is really a rare and good army. They have no pain and are not afraid of death. Just these 2 points are enough to be called excellent. The battle was getting intense, and both sides were already killing each other. No one cared about the military merit points. The soldiers defending the city wall had been replaced wave after wave. Some lords, who brought a small number of soldiers, had been fighting on the city wall for 6 hours. The lords who were the main generals had never left the city wall. The number of undeads rushing into the city wall was increasing. At the critical moment, Suo Yang put down the dragon-breaking stone above the city gate. This 2-meter thick, integrated stone, once put down, is difficult to open again. The defenders would not put it down unless it was absolutely necessary, because if they wanted to lift it up, they needed to repair the city gate again, and the workload was very huge. But as long as they could win this battle, everything would be worth it. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Lord Survival, My Shelter in Crocodile Territory. Author, Chi Wen. Chapter 323. Sure enough, as soon as the dragon-breaking stone appeared, General Arifubal sighed and ordered a withdrawal. The undead warriors trapped in the city were quickly eliminated. This exploratory attack lasted nearly 7 hours. The elite undead did not appear, but they tested some of the strength of Shanghai City, which was a draw. The leaders of both sides knew that the other side still had a trump card to play. Seeing the undead retreat, huge cheers broke out on the city wall. The soldiers who survived the disaster enjoyed the joy of victory in the battle. However, most of the commanders, lords and mayors did not applaud and cheer, because they knew that more tragic battles were still to come. Wang Shuo also came to the quartermaster. The weapons and equipment of the Red Flame Army have been upgraded to an extreme level. To go further, rare equipment is needed. The number of quartermasters cannot meet the needs of all the Red Flame Army. More importantly, these rare equipment are all unique. At the same time, Wang Shuo does not have so many military merit points. After thinking about it, Wang Shuo gave up the idea of exchanging equipment. After searching carefully, he found a large number of talismans. Defense enhancement talismans, attack enhancement talismans, and death talismans. This kind of death talisman has almost the same effect as Wang Shuo's dead spirit beads. Wang Shuo's military merit points at this time have reached 3 million, and the exchange point of a reinforcement talisman is 100 points. Wang Shuo directly exchanged 15,000 defense enhancement talismans and 15,000 attack enhancement talismans. Both of these talismans increase the ability by 25%, which can be said to be very good items. In the evening, Suo Yang gathered all the lords again. Everyone's performance today is very good, but tomorrow's battle will be more intense. We need to gather all the generals together to form a special force to block the opponent's top combat power. War generals. Wang Shuo guessed secretly. Suo Yang didn't say much. Then, everyone counted the number of generals in their hands. There is no doubt that in the East Gate area, the Changping County Coalition Army led by Wang Shuo had the largest number of generals, accounting for almost one-third. Suo Yang directly let Wang Shuo serve as a team leader and be responsible for the generals under his command. As for the generals of other lords, he appointed 2 top generals under his command to be in charge. Back to the camp, Wang Shuo summoned all the generals of Changping County to the square outside the big tent. Unexpectedly, there were more than 100 people. There were 20 senior generals. Of course, there were 8 people in Wana town alone, including Wang Shuo, Gong Zheng, Ayub, Gud, Ye Tianba, Li Jiangguo, Gong Kai, and Gong Ping. Others included Lin Dabiao and Buletin Lanlin from Qinghe Town, Zheng Zongji and Fang Deguang from Zhiokai Town, and Sushiu and others. Wang Shuo thought about it and transferred the senior and intermediate generals from the hands of each lord. As for the junior generals and the lords themselves, they stayed in their own defense areas and were responsible for command. If all high-end combat forces were withdrawn, the defense of the city wall would be in chaos. In the end, Wang Shuo's team of generals consisted of 15 high-level generals and 34 mid-level generals. During the formation process, there were naturally many lords who were unwilling to let their trusted generals leave them. Wang Shuo persuaded them and brought up Sauron, and these people reluctantly agreed. There were also some lords who took the initiative to ask their generals to replace them and join the team of generals. Wang Shuo also readily agreed. Among these lords was Sushiu. His move made Wang Shuo look at him with a higher eye. Even the unjust act of selling himself at the beginning, Wang Shuo didn't mind it much. After all, it was understandable that he made this move in order to preserve his strength at that time. Lord Survival, My Shelter in Crocodile Territory. Author, Qi Wen. Chapter 324. After a night's rest. Early morning. The urgent horn sounded again. Wang Shuo led a team of generals and quickly climbed onto the city wall. Ayub, who was on duty, rushed over immediately. "How is the situation?" Wang Shuo asked Ayub while taking out his telescope to observe the enemy's situation. "Back to the Lord, the undead did not attack last night. Just early in the morning, The undead had organized their army and were already showing signs of attacking. As he spoke, the ordinary undead had already rushed over. Prepare to fight. Wang Shuo handed the intermediate tiger talisman to Li Jiangguo and warned, in this battle, the defense of the city wall will be left to you to command. He turned to look at the other lords and said seriously, I hope you all will work together and cooperate with my beloved general to defend the city wall. If anyone disobeys orders, don't blame the ruthless military law. Wang Shuo probably also understood Sauron's purpose of forming a squad of generals, and he no longer had the ability to command the soldiers on the city wall. As for the most suitable candidate, Ayub was naturally the one, but Wang Shuo still felt it was a pity to leave such a brave melee general unused. The general team does not have a fixed defensive area. Wang Shuo led everyone and immediately rushed to Weng Cheng. Just at this time, in the distance above the altar, a vision suddenly appeared. I saw black smoke pillars above the surrounding altars, converging towards the largest altar. At the same time, the same thing happened across the 4 city gates. In the end, the 4 huge altars sprayed out a thick jet of black death energy and gathered into a ball above the light curtain of Shanghai City. After a breath, the dead air mass burst out with shocking energy, and the dead air mass was like a sharp sword. Directly penetrate the light curtain. It reaches up to the sky and pierces the earth below. The light curtain disappeared and the defense was broken. In the center of Shanghai City, an area of hundreds of square meters was directly penetrated by a bottomless black hole. Zhao Bang rushed directly to the roof. After a few flashes, he came to the highest roof. Seeing such a scene, he was also horrified. Everyone in Shanghai City was frightened. They had never seen such a horrific attack. Until the undead elite rushed over with roars like ghosts crying and wolves howling. Some generals came to their senses and shouted, "Defense, defend quickly." Outside the East City Gate, another monster, even bigger than yesterday's undead giant rhinoceros, appeared. Every step it took made the earth shake. Judgment. Level 60. Attack power, 2000. Defense, 2400. Health value, 40,000. Skill, self-destruction. Self-destruction, when impacting, it can self-destruct itself, causing damage equal to its own health x5 to nearby objects. The harder the collision object, the higher the damage. Wang Shuo's pupils shrank sharply and his breathing became rapid. I'm going to hum you. The target of the huge charge is clearly the dragon-breaking stone. Wang Shuo couldn't imagine where these undead people got these things from. Is this the background of Black Dragon City? Even though they turned into undead, they still have so many war machines in reserve. Not waiting for the giant impact to hit the dragon-broken stone. In the distance, there is a giant beast made of dead bones, with undead monsters constantly climbing on its head. He was actually building a human ladder. I saw that the height of the human ladder continued to increase, and soon reached a height of more than 50 meters. At this time, Wang Shuo unconsciously thought of hooking, 3 gus, 4 mysteries and 5s. What the hell? The giant beast ran forward quickly, and when it was 40 meters away from the city wall, it seemed to have stumbled, and the human ladder quickly fell towards the city wall. It is indeed the Pythagorean theorem. The undead can count, but the city wall cannot withstand it.